What's up, good people? Day 24, 31 days of value. Yesterday, we talked about your word being your gold for when it comes to making promises to your team. But there's another part to this. Part two is making promises to your customers and how important that is. Your word is your gold in business. What you say has value, whether it's of high value or whether it's of low value. Hopefully, what I say to you in terms of me knocking out these 31 podcasts in a row, I don't know if that's a record or not. Probably not. But my goal was to keep my word to you. And I'm big on that. I want to keep my word to the people I serve, my customers, my colleagues, my friends, my people that follow the podcast. Like, I value my word more than anything. So when it comes to your business and keeping word to your customers, you might think, of course I keep my word to my customers, man. I have to. I get paid to do that, right? But we know, and firsthand, I know what it feels like when we miss the mark or we don't hit the mark when it comes to delivering on a promise with a customer. So let's talk about a few of those. Let's start with the first part of that customer journey, keeping that promise of being on time for the sales appointment, and for me, I've been late. I can't, I'm not Mr. Perfect over here. I've been late to those appointments. I've showed up late. Sometimes it happened, I didn't show up at all. I mean, I had a customer that, and this is after I had Chris doing all my estimates, but I had this old customer and he wanted me to come and do the estimate. And that means him and I have worked together 5 years ago. And he remembered me. He sent me a text message and he's like, "Hey, Tanner, I have this, interior I want you to estimate, but I really want you to come do it." And, I'm busy now. I'm doing different things, got drip jobs. I'm doing the 31 days of value. I'm doing all these things, man. And for some reason, I didn't put it into the calendar. I don't know what I was thinking. I got busy. I kind of overlooked it. I'm like, all right, 12 o'clock Wednesday, I'll pop out of the house and make it happen. Well, didn't make it happen. And it was 1 o'clock. He texted me and he's like, "Hey, where were you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I got busy. Do you mind if I come? I'll leave right now. I'll be there at 1:45. He lived about 35 minutes away. And he's like, "No, I already hired someone else." And I'm like, "Really?" But the moral of the story is that I gave him my word and he held on to my word. He was probably there at 11:45 waiting for me. I didn't show up, and some people don't have the grace to give. They don't. You took something from them. I stole that man's time. He was expecting me there. He was a previous customer, and it was a bad look. And that's happened a couple times. And each time I take it on the chin. I try to be better, but I recognize that I am not a perfect human, and I need a system to help me with time management and time tracking. I'm going to allude to the fact that I should have put it in drip jobs. I should have created the appointment. I should have connected it to Google Calendar. So not only did I put it in drip jobs, I get the Google Calendar reminder 30 minutes before. I should have protected myself from the inevitable reality that I get distracted on some days and I have people hitting me from all angles, right? So, again, we can't make excuses. One thing that I'll let you know is that people don't care when there's time and money involved. There's that time and money again. His time was involved. So the time is the most valuable resource in the entire world. And I stole his time. Like, I don't blame him for being mad. So again, if you give your word that you're going to be somewhere, you need to be there. And if you're not going to be there, then you have to have enough awareness that you should reach out to them during an acceptable amount of time before you're supposed to be there and inform them. And you know what's amazing about that is, generally speaking, people respect that unless there's like a hard reason why you need to be there at that time. Like if a customer's, moving into a house and the realtor had to open up the door and you call 30 minutes earlier and say, oh, I can't make it. Like, dude, like, that's not cool. So again, awareness is important there. But you've got to be an honorable individual in your business dealings when it comes to people's time. Another example is the job start date, man. Like that job start date, you've got to keep your promise. If there is a very important reason why they need a job started, let's say the movers are coming Saturday and it's a 4-day job and you said you'd start on that previous Monday. And it's like, well, sorry, Mrs. Jones, we couldn't make it. Like, let me be clear about the way I run my business because, an estimate's one thing. A job, dude, I will paint it myself if there's a hard start date. And I'm not painting. So I will make sure my team is there. I will move parts around. I am always looking at the schedule to make sure that we're keeping our promises. That's important to me because I know if I were the homeowner and I paid top dollar for a painting business to come and do work for me, at the bare minimum, they better keep their promises. And who knows, the reason they may have hired us was because of the start date. Therefore, if I don't meet that start date, then I lied in order to get their business. And I won't do that. I won't partake in that behavior. Okay? So keeping the promises you make to your customers is extremely high value. Now, on the flip side, as you grow your business, you're going to get to a place where you're no longer the one fulfilling those promises. You're managing the people that are fulfilling those promises. So when we tell our customers that our team's going to be there at 8 a.m. and the team doesn't show up at 8 a.m., well then, how do we fix that disconnect? Because me as the owner, I know no one's going to care about my business more than me. So it does require a certain level of what we talked about yesterday. I kept my word to you as an employee. You keep your word to our customers. That's the exchange. And if you find that your team members are not keeping their word to your customers, you might want to audit if you're keeping your word to your team because they are a reflection of you. And I want you to understand this at a core level because, sometimes it's not as cut and dry as, well, this person doesn't care. It's just, again, what did I say in my example yesterday? I rebelled. I started to resent the company I work for because they didn't keep their promises. So, for us, I don't typically worry about our team showing up on time. I worry about, the obvious things that sometimes happen where corners get cut, the lines don't get caulked and taped the way that I promised the customer they would. We didn't start in the room we said we would, right? So there's these micro promises that sometimes happen during the sale, which is also very important. So let's get into that, right? Keeping the promises of the sale. Hey, you said you would. Well, one of the things I don't do is overpromise. Another thing that I learned over time is that if it's not on the proposal, it's not getting done. Yesterday, there's this house that we're painting, and there's this back retention wall that we estimated this job a month ago, and the customer told us they didn't want it done, okay? Well, customer brings it up when Julio's doing the initial greeting and walkthrough, and he's texting me saying, hey, is this getting done? My first answer to him is, look at the work order. Well, guess what? Our fault. We didn't put it on the work order that the customer told us they didn't want it done. Therefore, our fault. If it's, and in the same way, we've got to protect ourselves and make sure the right information is on the proposal. Even those small things that they said they didn't want done, and we say, okay, well, we won't quote it. Well, again, that creates a lot of gray area. And it's the same thing for things that, we outline in our proposal in terms of preparation. Does it say we're going to caulk things? Does it say we're going to scrape things? Does it say we're going to repair things? To what degree do those things get done? I had an experience where we had a 2-story hardy board, and this particular side of the house got berated with sun. And it was terrible because when we painted it, if you look at it from a certain angle, you can see like these shadows, these linear shadows is the only way I can describe it. And once it was painted, the color they picked was a little bit brighter. So like they highlighted and accentuated like to a degree that, unimaginable. And it made it look like it was our fault. So we didn't have anything in our contract that protected us from something like this. So the customer just pretty much didn't pay us and said, you guys have to fix it. This one got so bad that I had to get out there on a ladder because our teams were just so spread thin, and we were mini rolling a 2-story house, laying on the paint with a mini roller because that was the easiest way to try to create consistency. I have this like 20-foot pole that I'm like rolling each board with Julio. Julio was with me. And in my head, I'm thinking, I will never go through this again. So at the end of it, once we made it to where it was passable, even though it wasn't our fault, I looked at the previous pictures and I could see the shadows. But in any case, I created a section in our terms and conditions that says we are not responsible for pre-existing conditions. Plain and simple. So now when someone accepts that term and condition, I can reference it if they're unhappy with something that pops up that's clearly not our fault. Even the Sherwin-Williams rep said it wasn't our fault. But I didn't have anything to protect myself, and I had to honor my word that I would leave our customer satisfied. So, again, like there's different provisions that you need to take in order to make sure that that you're able to keep your word. And like there's part one is using a good system to keep you organized, right? Because sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes you just forget. So I put all of our appointments, sales appointments into Drip Jobs. Our customers are notified when we'll be there, and there's reminders. So that creates a little bit of accountability for us and the customer, which is good. Second, our proposal clearly outlines what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. In Drip Jobs, the proposal creates a work order. So the customer, so our crew leader has an exact copy of the proposal in a work order. So anything that's sold goes on the work order. If there's a change order done, once it's accepted, it gets populated on the work order. So again, no work is getting done unless it's on that work order. From there, once we agree to schedule the job, the customer gets a start date. Now, I live in Florida, so there's a lot of rain. So sometimes we don't make the start date. But in the email and the text message the customer gets, we use this very special word. It's called tentatively, which means it's tentative, which means this is the start date we're giving you, but it's subject to change. Now, I used to have people complain about that, and I added more context that says, unfortunately, we can't control the weather. We'll do our best. We work both inside and outside. If there is a change in your start date, unless it was a firm date that was promised, we will notify you promptly. So in Drip Jobs, when we reschedule a job, we trigger a text and an email that lets them know when their start date is, their new start date. Now, again, like you can't do this too much because after about 3 reschedules, your customer's going to get upset. So you have to be mindful of how many times you're rescheduling someone, because again, you're constantly building trust with someone each step of the way. And because the sales cycle is so long and they have to wait so long, it's almost like they forget and you have to rebuild that trust again. So like you could do a great job on the estimate, the sale, the initial job schedule, but then you start rescheduling the job 2 or 3 times, they start to lose faith in you. So again, having a good system that updates people, being respectful of their time is a huge component of building a kingdom level business where people believe in your mission and your vision and want to buy from you. And it clearly makes you the outlier. With that said, the last part of this is what I discussed of my experience of creating provisions in your terms and conditions that protect you from doing anything outside of the scope. Now, you might say, I don't want to put too much terms and conditions. It might scare people away. Well, highly suggest you do. And you can use ChatGPT to help you with that. So, but that's my message for you today is your word is your gold. We talked yesterday about your word being your gold to your team. And then today, your word being gold to your customers. So I hope you got a lot out of this, guys. I just want to update you. So, man, like God's been really moving in my life these last 3 weeks. I mean, doing this, there's days I don't want to do it. There's days I do want to do it. And through this, man, I was just so inspired to start writing a book. And I'm happy to say that I got the first draft out. So I literally stopped everything I was working on for the last week and just went all in on writing a book called The 31 Days of Value. And the book is everything that I talked about so far in the 31 Days of Value, formatted, easy to read, and each chapter has a Bible verse at the end. So my first initial thought is I'm going to give this book away for free. So if you want to be the first to grab it, I'm actually ordering 200 copies by the end of this week. So if you want to be one of the first to grab that book, or you think that it'd be something that could benefit you, I'll tell you, man, like I read this book and some of the things that I formatted, and it's going to be kind of like a daily business devotional with a lesson and a structured format every single day for 31 days. So if that's something that you feel like you would be interested in, I'd love to give you a copy. So if you can message me on Instagram, official Tanner Mullen, I will make sure that I add you to the list to get a free copy of the book. So that's my gift to you for hanging out with me and supporting the podcast. Thank you, guys. Can't wait to chat with you tomorrow as we close in on the last week of the 31 Days of Value. God bless.